Hello everyone, MFPallytime here. Welcome back to Heroes of the Storm. I was just saying, I wasn't planning on doing this video. This is going to be a theory crafting video for Mephisto. Wasn't planning on doing it because, well, we've already shown him off a lot on the channel. And usually, have you guys gotten a good look at it yet? Can I come on screen? Usually, the theory crafting videos are literally my first impressions trying to figure out what's going on. So, kind of weird, because I was at Gamescom for a week, and I played Mephisto for like 50 fucking, or excuse me, I played Hanamura for like 50 hours, and I kept, you know, playing Mephisto periodically. So, not quite our normal theory crafting video, but if you would like a very long, very drawn out, very boring look at the newest character to enter the Nexus, then this is the place for you. If you don't want to hear about every single talent that this guide has, if you don't want to hear about about my own opinions on what Mephisto has to offer in the Nexus, then you have been warned. See yourself out now. I don't want to hear no shit. Also, I'm really sick, so please be nice to me. We're doing a black and white camp today because I didn't want to turn my lights on. Okay, so the most important stuff. We have his dance. Isn't that special? And his taunt.
Feel the strength of the burning hells.
Yo. This taunt would actually look really cool with the, you know, the high level,
I am contained.
What is that, a badge that comes out? I don't know. So if you haven't seen Mephisto before, which I'm assuming, again, most of you have, so we'll keep this part brief. His Q ability is Skull Missile. Conjure a skull that... There, stand still. Conjure a skull that travels in the target direction after 0.5 seconds, dealing 138 damage to enemies hit and slowing them by 25% for 2 seconds. If you use your E ability, which is the Shade of Mephisto, teleport to a location, dealing damage to nearby enemies and leaving behind a Shade of Mephisto at Mephisto's original location. After 2.5 seconds, Mephisto is teleported back to this location. You can teleport forward, mess around for a little bit, and then cast your Q. And your Q stays in the position... Let me show you that again. Toggle cooldowns. Your Q stays in the position where you cast it. So, what I've been doing mostly is jumping in, trying to deal as much damage as possible, and then on the way out, leaving him a little skull surprise. Basically just watching that bar, so right when I teleport back, I know I'm able to deal a little bit more damage. This definitely has a learning curve to it because of the 0.75 second delay. You really got to learn to lead your targets. What I found works the best with actually landing this ability is, again, jumping in and being aggressive, making them want to leave, and then as they're running away, landing that on them to scare them. Then we have Lightning Nova. A ring of lightning appears around Mephisto for 2.5 seconds. Enemies within the ring take 50 damage. So, to the uninitiated, this is a confusing tooltip. So it says enemies within the within the ring. The ring it's talking about is this outer circle on the spell here. Myself and several pros that were at Gamescom all kind of thought it would be like Lucio's reverse amp, where you turn it on and it just deals damage to everything inside. As you can see, it's only the lightning particles that actually deal damage to the target. And to be fair, you actually have a little bit more wiggle room. If I can, I don't know, it's kind of a confusing graphic too. Let me super zoom. So the lightning kind of expands past and then constricts within the ring a lot. So you may think that because these arcs on the side are kind of jettisoning out a little bit more, that the target may be in range, when in actuality they're not. Excuse me. So, just take some getting used to. Play around with it. I actually have I don't know if it's colorblind mode or not, but I have a way easier time seeing this circle than I did at Gamescom. Not sure. And then his trait is the Lord of Hatred. Hitting enemy heroes with basic abilities reduces Mephisto's basic abilities. So, Skull Missiles and Shade of Mephisto grant 1.5 seconds of cooldown reduction.
1 whole year, let's go.
Miss Funk and DS Jahid. Thank you for the resubs. Where was I? Skull Missile and Shade of Mephisto grant 1.5 seconds of cooldown reduction. And Lightning Nova grants 0.3 per hero hit. Now, the Lightning Nova seems a little underwhelming until you're able to jump in. Let's turn cooldowns off. Until you're able to jump in and actually deal damage to multiple heroes. Once you get to that point, if you get good at positioning with this, it is actually a pretty formidable amount of cooldown reduction. And remember, you can still use your other abilities while you're doing this. So it is possible to kind of jump in, totally remove the cooldown of your Lightning Nova, and then jump back in again. And the same kind of goes for his Q. If you go for a Q build, it's possible to jump in, land a Q, and immediately be able to pop another Q right after. Like, the cooldown reduction actually feels really good with him. Usually cooldown reduction in builds is a bit of an afterthought, the exception of that probably being Li Ming. Like, you have talents that give you cooldown reduction, and it's kind of cool, and you can get some use out of it. I mean, back in the day, every character had battle momentum, right? It was a generic talent. You just hit stuff, and then you could get your cooldowns back faster. But hold the phone. Hold the phone. Hello? Hello? Hold on, I gotta find it. This is really hard. That's a 4-leaf clover. Sorry, I'm really sick. I have a fever, and I'm on cough medicine. I'm gonna drink some water. Okay. All right, where was I? Just for the record, this is what goes on in my head all the time. It's just normally I could ignore it. I could just keep talking about whatever I was talking about. Wow. I'm never going to be able to unsee that. How many fucking years have we been dicking around in try mode? Wow. Okay, so I actually really like his level 1 talents, and I've used all of them, which is something I can't normally say. I've legitimately used all of these talents, and I think he actually has some pretty good build variety from what I've been able to tell. I will say that my favorite build for Mephisto is focused around his Q ability.
You're a cool dude. Love the YouTube vids. Keep up the great work.
When I first picked him up, I was really focused on his W build. So every 5th hit from Lightning Nova against the same target deals 105 bonus damage. You could jump in, use your Lightning Nova, and it doesn't take that long to get 5 stacks up and start dealing bonus damage. It really doesn't. Okay, I just want the record to show he just blocked 2 of my auto attacks with what looked like 0 health and still lived. That feels really fucking bad. So yeah, basically my opinion of him has changed the more I played him. For those of you that don't know, I was at Gamescom last week, just in case you haven't watched the videos, and I played about 50 hours of Hanamura, and played quite a bit of Mephisto, both on stage and show matches and off stage. So definitely have a lot of time with him. But Unyielding Power is his first talent. This is a Q quest. Hit enemy heroes with the Skull Missile after hitting 20 heroes. Increase Skull Missile's damage by 60. After hitting 40 heroes, Skull Missile's cooldown is permanently reduced to 5 seconds. By default, it is an 8-second cooldown. So you're taking 3 seconds off the cooldown, which is pretty good. But becomes even better when you realize that you get the cooldown reduction from your trait on top of that. So if you hit one person with your Q, it goes down to a 3.5-second cooldown. If you hit 2 people, you're basically going to be able to cast it again, because if you take a look at the bar, I'm just going to keep zooming in on things today, I think. If you take a look at the bar, there is a global cooldown, basically. So when you cast a spell, there is a bit of time, even when cooldown's on, where you can't cast something again. That's the global cooldown, right? World of Warcraft has this. Heroes has it too. At least I've always thought it does. And basically, by the time you hit 2 people with your Q, you can cast it again, is where I'm going with this. So it's pretty powerful, and it has a lot of talents throughout the tree to make it even better. Then we have Furious Spark. Every 5th hit from Lightning Nova against the same target deals 110 bonus damage. This has great synergy with the talent at level 4. So if you wanted to go for a Q build, that is really well supported. And it is... I mean, you can lane clear with it too. So keep that in mind. I don't believe it's just heroes. So if we walk down here, I can deal bonus damage to the building and shit. So it does actually increase your pushing potential. Which, by the way, I focus on lane clear a lot with the heroes that I play, so his lane clear is actually not that bad. It does take a little bit of mana, but once you get going, you can really clear lanes. And he even has some talents later on that increases lane clearing potential even more. But if dealing siege damage is something you like, this gives you a little bit more as well. So a little bit of a universal talent. Whereas the unyielding power, you only get the... Well, I guess you get the cooldown reduction no matter what once you hit 40 heroes. But if you're focusing on just pushing buildings down, it's going to take a while to hit those 40 heroes. Then we have the Malicious Intent, which I like a lot. At the beginning, we were talking about Mephisto's playstyle, and like you're constantly jumping in with your E, trying to be as terrifying as possible in the short amount of time that you can before you get rubber banded back to your original location. And Malicious Intent allows you to be very scary. Very scary. So Shade of Mephisto grants 20% spell power while active. So the active part means while your shade is still here, while this effect is going on. And then for 2.5 seconds after ending as well. So that allows you to jump in, improve the power of your Lightning Nova, improve the power of your Skull Missile. And what I was using it for is also improving the power of Consumed Souls at level 10. We did a Heroes Unite yesterday, the day before, for Mephisto on the Squadron channel. And a lot of you have seen my pentakill. It was number 1 on Reddit for Mephisto when an Anna nano boosted me, and then I used Consumed Soul to kill targets. We could have made Consumed Soul deal even more damage by buffing it with this, and then there's a talent later on that can also give you more spell power. So you can get yourself up to 70% spell power in that particular scenario, and then do an ultimate that deals global damage to everyone. So, something to think about. And then Anger. Basic attacks against enemy heroes also activate Lord of Hatred, reducing ability cooldowns by 0.75. This one's not bad, and there are some good synergies to consider with this. So your W is the same range as your auto attacks. So if you're attacking someone, they're also going to be hit by your W. And of course, you can shoot your Q at them too to keep them still. So it's pretty intuitive in that way to want to auto attack people to get your cooldowns back as well. But for me and for Chu and for everyone else that was playing him, the predominant playstyle became jumping in, trying to do as much damage as possible, and then leaving immediately. And I found it a little difficult to actually get these auto attacks in throughout the course of the game to have a really lasting effect. Now, there were situations where I really enjoyed this, and especially the Regen Globe one too, even though that's a little weird. But by picking this up, I pretty much accepted I wasn't going to get benefits from it all the time because I'm not an auto attack assassin, right? I'm a mage. So you kind of have to make that calculation as you go in, or at least that's what I was doing. That's how I was approaching the situation. So if you want the best talent at level 1, in my opinion, it's going to be Unyielding Power, and that leads extremely well into Hateful Mending. Skull Missile heals Mephisto for 50% of the damage it deals to heroes. So let's complete our quest and turn cooldowns off. So if we're just firing this off in team fights and we actually hit, a couple heroes at a time, we're pretty much going to be healing ourselves all the time too. And even if we only hit one hero, we still don't have much of a cooldown at all by the time the spell finishes its travel time. So again, Heroes doesn't really have a global cooldown, but I guess, okay, my analogy wasn't very good earlier, right? So if I feel like this ability has a global cooldown because of the 0.75 second delay. Like you're just sitting here, you're waiting for it to happen. It feels like you're playing WoW. You get what I'm saying? I didn't explain that very well first time. And this is what I was using a lot on the show floor, specifically because we were playing with people of all different skill ratings. And I never knew if I was going to get a healer. I never knew if that healer actually knew what their buttons did. I sat down next to an Uther who ended a game with 30 healing. I don't even know how he got 30 healing. How do you do that? It doesn't make any sense. How do you get 30 healing? But, you know, you can kind of keep yourself alive. If you take some damage, teleport around, shoot your Q, you get the cooldown reduction from your quest, and you're going to be able to get your health back no problem. Now, static barrier here. At the end of its duration, Lightning Nova grants Mephisto a shield equal to 50% of the damage it dealt to heroes, can give you a shield for literally thousands of health in the right situation. And it does stack extremely well with Furious Spark and a talent later on. So once you get used to the range of his ability, you can see at level 7, I just generated 1,000 fucking shields for my character, and it lasts a pretty respectable time. I do think that that talent specifically, in conjunction with Anger at level 1, does allow you to become a little bit more auto attack based, because now that you have this shield, you can just go back in and then potentially get another shield. But this is, of course, in a very like, you're not gonna be able to hit 3 targets every time, you know what I mean? So if you can keep someone in range, maybe it'll look like this at the end. But still, that's more shields than you had before. And I do believe that stacks with his level 16 talent as well, which 16 was a pretty big talent of contestion. Pretty big talent tier of contestion for me. I couldn't figure out which one I liked the most. But something to keep in mind. And then by far the most awkward of his talents at level 4 is Spite. Increased regeneration globe healing duration by 60%. Every tick of regeneration globe's healing excuse me, activates Lord of Hatred, reducing basic cooldowns by 0.5 seconds. This by itself is a really awkward talent, especially on Hanamura, which is a 2-lane map with a massive gap in the middle, right? So for the majority of the map, you're not going to be getting any regeneration globes. So it was really awkward. It was really awkward on that map. But I think there's actually some cool combos you can do with this. So for example, a W build Alexstrasza giving you regen globes every time she casts her W. Doesn't matter where you are for that. You could be getting some cooldown reduction. So that's kind of neat. It seems really niche, and I think the other 2 talents in the tier are significantly better. But this is like his survivability tier, right? Your Q gives you health back, your W gives you shields on top of your health, and the idea is that this one makes the regeneration globes last longer, so you get more passive healing from that. Which also means you'd be getting more mana back from that too, right? So, kind of a weird talent. I can't say there's too many like that in the game. But definitely interesting. Definitely interesting. By far here, I think the best talent is, this is at level 7. Shade of Mephisto gains 20 armor while active and for 2.5 seconds after it ends. That just seems to be the best one, hands down. The other ones are enemies near Shade of Mephisto are slowed by 50% for 2 seconds, hitting excuse me. Hitting enemies with Skull Missile while Shade of Mephisto is active increases the slow to 50%. What? I can't comprehend that right now. Okay. And then Shade of Mephisto gains 20% movement speed while active for 0.25 seconds. After it ends, Shade of Mephisto expires. All slows and roots are removed from Mephisto. So let's talk about some of the what's the word I'm trying to say? There's a word in there somewhere. What is it, chat? Implications. Yeah, I was trying to put in too many syllables. Okay. So, your Shade of Mephisto, your teleporting ability can only be interrupted by stasis effects. So, if we are stunned...
The way is open.
Come on. Please. If we're stunned over here, we're going to die. We can still teleport back to our original location. Being stunned does not interrupt the Shade of Mephisto because it's an active ability. Neither does being put to sleep or being rooted or being silenced. None of that interrupts it. The only things that can are stasis effects. So we're talking about a Stitch's Gorge, a Nubrak Cocoon, a Void Prison, a Time Trap from Chromie, a Leyline Seal from Medivh, Devouring Maw from Zagara, and maybe there's a few more. I don't know. But you get the idea. So the fact that you can remove these, I don't feel like is super necessary at all. Kind of like, will it save you in certain situations? Yeah, but I feel like in those situations, you're probably already overextended in the first place, and you would be better off just positioning better. That's my impression. And the 20 armor, remember, this is pure armor, so it's 20% damage reduction. And we've been talking about
10 months.
Thank you. We've been talking about his playstyle, where he goes in and he's hyper aggressive for a little while, and then he goes back and he kind of waits for his cooldowns. And the 20 armor allows you to be even more aggressive and not really worry about too much that's in front of you, which lends itself to the playstyle even more. In fact, maybe his playstyle is developing that way for me because of the armor. Because I've pretty much taken it in just about every game. It seems too good to pass up. Too good to pass up. Level 10. This is a sore topic for some people because I didn't give Durance of Hate enough time on the show floor. But now that I'm in a bit more of a controlled environment, I can I can articulate a little bit better why Durance is such a piece of shit. It's so bad. So, we've been talking about our Q ability and how we can teleport forward, do some shit, and then when we're about to leave, you hit your Q ability, and then it goes out and it travels. It's living its own life over here. It doesn't need you to tell it what to do. It has its mission. It's going to do it. It doesn't matter if you're next to it at all. Durance doesn't do that. At least I don't think it does. It didn't seem like it. Let's double check. So teleporting forward, I want to cast Durance of Hate. I hate that ability. It made me a little upset just to cast it just now. Okay, so what does it actually do? What does it actually do? It, after 1 second, unleash a wave of spirits that root the first enemy hero hit for 2 seconds, dealing 237 damage. Ooh, woo, woo. Durance of Hate then spreads outward from its initial target, rooting and damaging additional nearby enemy heroes. So, again, our playstyle. Engage, go in, do stuff, yeah! Doesn't really lend itself to sitting still. On top of that, this is delayed even more than your Q ability, and the Q is kind of hard to hit on a 0.75 second delay. This is a 1 second delay for a skill shot with a travel time, okay? With a fucking 80-second cooldown by default, that just roots a target. Granted, that root does spread, and it'll root other targets. That's fine. I don't think the root lasts long enough. I think the cooldown is way too long. I don't think it deals anywhere near enough damage. It does have an upgrade at level 20 that makes it so it can silence these targets too after they're done being rooted, and that's good. But there's too many fundamental flaws with the ability to justify picking it up, especially compared to Consume Soul. And the fact that it doesn't work in his kit like his Q does, like you just can't leave it here, I think is ridiculous. I will say though, I like that it, I didn't even get a chance to really try that aspect of it out on the show floor. I do like that the skill shot maintains its trajectory. Even though I was technically aiming for this guy, it still kept it going that way, which is kind of nice. So I think we're going to need to see some pretty big adjustments on this one in order to make it viable. And I don't know, maybe on another hero that would be the go-to, but Consume Soul's just too good. So you channel for 0.25 seconds for Consume Soul, and then after the duration, you're going to deal global damage to everyone that they can't avoid, unless they have some way of protecting themselves, by the way. And this, it does more damage than the skill shot to everyone on the map. I think that's the first fundamental flaw between these two abilities. Like, this is just guaranteed.
Our enemy hides here.
Oh, it doesn't do it to the target dummies. That's weird. Okay, so it channels. Boom. On top of the damage, it also has a 40% slow. So it has crowd control built in. Globally, that can't possibly miss. So let's say a Mephisto channels his little ultimate, which is hard to illustrate when it doesn't attack the target dummies, but let's just, okay, I'm channeling my ultimate. After my ultimate lands, that's a guaranteed APOC from a Diablo, right? It has to be. A 40% slow has to be enough to keep someone in Apocalypse. Not tested, just theory crafting, right? Just thinking out loud. I'm just saying, this is all crowd control and way too hard to land. This is better damage to everyone on the enemy team with crowd control, and it's brainless. All that with just 40 more seconds on the cooldown. Like, Consume Souls is so drastically better than the other one. So fucking drastically better. Okay, I finally said that the way I wanted to. It was so hard to say that at Gamescom because we were sponsored. And I didn't want to just shit all over their character, and I was trying to be really constructive about it. But it's so bad. Durn's Fate is so bad. Ugh, feels good, man. Feels good. I don't even think it really has wombo combo potential because it's only a 2-second slow. Oh my god! Fucking Consume Souls lasts longer! Oh, I didn't even know that. Consume Souls is a 2.5 second slow, and Endurance of Hate is only a 2-second root! Oh, god. Alright. Alright. Okay. Then once you get up to level 13, basically I see this talent tier as being a continuation of what you were doing early on.
Choose a talent.
Maybe that's not entirely true. Maybe that's just how I'm viewing it. But
Choose a talent.
let's take a look at some of the talents. So Adorned Skull. Skull Missiles grant spell power. Hitting enemy hero with Skull Missile grants 20% spell power for 6 seconds. So, remember, we're already doing our Q quest, so we don't have too much of a cooldown. And now, every time we land our Q, it's going to be increasing our spell power substantially. And you're actually able to miss a Q. All right, let's say you just landed one. You're actually able to miss a Q and then fire off another one because of our cooldown reduction and still get the benefit. So it's not only does it just give you more damage for doing what you're doing right now, which those are usually pretty good talents, right? You don't have to change up your playstyle. You're just better at what you've been doing the whole game. But it's also lenient enough that you don't have to. You don't have to play perfect, right? You could just missed a skill shot. It's not the end of the world. So Hysteria is a pretty interesting one. And I like it. I do. Lord of Hatred also reduces the cooldown of Mephisto's heroic abilities. This is where you start to get into a cooldown reduction build for Mephisto that all of a sudden doesn't seem too outlandish. You can still pick up regeneration globes, and that'll take a few seconds off of your cooldown reduction. Now, all of a sudden, those auto attacks that you're landing on heroes kind of matter a bit more. And you get to cast your fucking bomb-ass Consume Soul significantly more. You could probably take, I would say, 40% of your cooldown reduction, or of your
Glad
cooldown.
To see you streaming and feeling better again.
Oh, I'm definitely not feeling better. Definitely not doing that. You could take about, I would say conservatively, if you're actually picking up globes and hitting your abilities, you could take about 40% of your cooldown off of Consume Soul. Which, being able to cast a global ultimate significantly more often is, I think, really, really strong. But what are you giving up for that? You're giving up 20% spell power or an auto attack splash. So basic attacks hit enemy heroes near the primary target. From what I understand, this Shard of Hate is supposed to give you cooldown reduction if you grab Anger at level 1.
Choose a talent.
Let's test it.
Choose a talent.
I'm gonna need to get Furion out of there, right? Doesn't does it Innervate give cooldown reduction?
Malevolent.
So the splash is actually really good. It covers, it's probably the biggest auto attack splash in the game. It covers a really big area. His auto attack doesn't hit very hard, but oh, I need Vikings too or something. I need multiple heroes. But this does take
for not being dead. Hope you get to feeling better soon, Pally.
Thank you. This does take his wave clear kind of up to the next level. If that's something your team is lacking, this is I can't remember how to spell. Okay, I found it. This does take your wave clear up to kind of the next level. So if this is something your team's lacking, you can take it. Kind of like Medivh and his talent to just lane clear at level 20. Like, really, you shouldn't be the one doing that, but if you can, you might as well, right? So, firing off a Q. Let's look at the cooldowns. Oh, yeah. Hold on, let's do this. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that stacks. So if you're able to hit multiple people with your auto attacks, you can lower the cooldowns of your abilities even faster. But I also feel like you could probably just fire off more Qs with this. I just could have hit these fucking target dummies. I didn't need to do any of that. I could have just hit the target dummies. Oh man, I can't wait to read the comments on this one. I don't think it's that strong. I think you'd be better off if all you're trying to do is get cooldown reduction and pump out as much damage as humanly possible. I do think that you would be better off going for a Q quest. I think anyway. I think so. But, whatever. Then level 16. Lightning Reaction. Skull Missile explodes on contact with Lightning Nova, dealing 316 damage to nearby enemies. I didn't think this was that strong at first. The more I played Mephisto, though, the more I realized that this is really, really, really good talent. Also, credit to Snitch, the Dignitas player, for kind of pointing me in the right direction with this one, because I kind of already wrote it off. But he brought me back to the light. I was a giant fan of Static Field. When Lightning Nova's damage bonus reaches 40%, enemy heroes within its radius take damage equal to 12% of their maximum health. It's, on paper, it sounds so good. But the reality of the situation is, this is going to be very difficult to do. In most games. Especially as people understand how to fight Mephisto more. Being able to just sit here and channel this shit is going to be significantly more difficult to do. Will it happen? Can you do it? Absolutely. And it's really, really strong at beating up high health targets. But just look at the Vikings moving through me. They kind of scattered around all over the place. So being able to actually being able to actually stack up that damage bonus is going to be hard. It's going to be really hard. You know what isn't hard?
Choose a talent. Choose
People.
A talent.
Never mind. I'm not going to do
Choose
the
a
channel.
talent. Choose a talent.
You know what isn't difficult to do?
Choose a talent.
Lightning Reaction. all you gotta do is go in with your W, shoot a fucking Q, and basically get double the value out of your Q. Let's complete our quests. So, instead of just doing one application of your Q's damage, you get 2 applications of your Q's damage if you position properly. And it's significantly easier to have people kind of close to the edge of Lightning Nova than it is to have them exactly on the edge of Lightning Nova. So as far as just ease of access and effectiveness combined, I really do think it's kind of, how do you go wrong with lightning reactions? It's just really good. And then I have to be honest, I never actually used this talent. I didn't use it one time. Animosity. Activate to extend the duration of Lightning Nova by 2.5 seconds. Basic attacks while Lightning Nova is active cause an immediate pulse of Lightning Nova damage. So let's test it.
Choose a talent.
We'd probably want to go for
Choose a talent.
a Q build, right?
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
Animosity. So,
Choose a talent.
oh, ooh, that could be fun with the cleave. That could be fun.
Love from Pax. Feel better soon,
Choose a
buddy.
talent.
Dude, I totally forgot PAX was even a thing until Kai was telling me about it.
Choose a talent. Choose a
It
talent.
was even on my radar.
Choose a talent. Choose
Okay,
a
so
talent.
let's put ourselves in this scenario, right?
Choose a talent.
So we cast our ult. Let's just assume this is going to do 500 damage to these guys. Now they're slowed. It's actually a lot of damage. You'd have to keep up with them a little bit, obviously. You wouldn't be able to just sit there and channel it. You'd have to stutter step a little bit. But that could be quite a bit. Imagine in a mosh pit or something. That damage could stack up like crazy. Yeah, that could be fun. I like these two. Together. Yeah, I can see that. Okay. Now, his level 20, I think, is really awkward. He has a really awkward level 20 talent tree. So, he has Shade Lord. Activate to swap locations with the Shade of Mephisto and refresh its duration. I did use this to get away from tracers a couple times. So, how I did it was I would, it's a minute cooldown though. Holy crap. How I did it was, so let's say the tracer is chasing me here, right? I need to get away. You jump over the wall and immediately swap back. Because it refreshes the duration. So if you jump over and then swap back, you kind of just fight the person for a really, really long time. Which doesn't really work for what I think the talent is intended for. I'm kind of thinking of this as his only defensive level 20. I don't know if it's supposed to be. One good benefit of it, though, is if you go for the armor at level 7, you pretty much have armor forever. Like, this is like a year's worth of armor if you can reactivate your shade. So, yeah, maybe that's worth considering. His other level 20 talents, once again, are kind of weird. I do think, honestly, that with this setup,
Choose a talent.
we could get some really good use out of Mimic. So while both Shade and Mephisto... Okay, that's... I feel like my brain just stopped while I was reading that. While both Shade and Mephisto and Lightning Nova are active, Lightning Nova also casts from the Shade's location. So what does that mean? That means that you're never going to get full value out of this because it's too fucking hard, and you can stop kidding yourself right now. But let's say in this make-believe world that we're living in, that we can legitimately overlap our W ability on a target twice. Okay? Now, let's all agree that that's fucking impossible to do consistently, but let's just assume that we're a god. That's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. But here, let me give you a hint of what's actually going to happen. Let me show you. What do you mean they moved? They moved? They can't do that. I can't move my shade. They're not allowed to move. So once again, if you have like a God Mosh or something, it could be fun. You also have to take the weird positioning into consideration. So you have to give yourself enough room on each side, right? You gotta, which is weird. It's hard to do. The theoretical DPS here is like astronomical. The actual DPS you could do here, I don't know. Probably not too high. The level 20 upgrade for Consume Soul is pretty good, assuming no one actually steals your kills. That's the most frustrating part of using it. I wonder if I can just straight up kill Vikings if I boost my spell power. Hold on.
Choose a talent.
Okay. Well, yeah, it looks like they took care of that for me.
Enjoy the gift of my pitiless eye.
Maybe zoning with it? I mean, so you're thinking about it like a phoenix? I don't really think that works because remember you have to teleport back to your shade location. Decent idea though. It's like you're zoning just for a moment. I don't know. I don't really get it. Maybe I just have to see someone who's significantly better at the game than me try it out.
Choose a talent.
I don't really get it. Okay, the Vikings are here.
Six months wooed.
So, I think I kind of infamously said that at Gamescom, a developer had told me that this ability will keep going on over and over. Did I even tell you what it does? So, Consumed by Hatred, if you kill someone with your ult, it'll cast again. A developer I was speaking to, I'm almost certain, granted I had a few beers at the time, but I'm almost certain he told me that it continues to go on over and over and over. So eventually, it just kills a team, right? There's one. There's another one. Let's assume it killed someone there. It'll do it again. It doesn't do that. I don't know if the balance team got in the way somewhere because obviously that's pretty busted. But it doesn't do that. Instead, it just casts one more time. And we were kind of theorizing, well, maybe it was an issue with killing blows while we were at Gamescom, but clearly it's not because I got both of those killing blows there. So you get one additional time, and it deals more damage based on how low the health of your targets actually are. So that could be kind of fun. Definitely the strongest in the tier, in my opinion. It makes your already really, really, really fucking good ultimate even better at what it does. Like, how do you argue with that? I think it's really, really hard to. And then the upgrade for Durance of Hate, one of the worst abilities in the game's history, in my opinion. No disrespect intended.
Choose a talent. Choose a talent.
They all, they can't all be home runs. You know what I mean? Sometimes, what's it called when you just go and try to hit the thing like that, hit the ball like that in baseball? I forgot what that's called. But sometimes, you get home runs, and sometimes you gotta just hit the ball. It's a bunt. Yeah. Yeah. So the level 20, I do think this makes the ability significantly better, just for the record. But on a fundamental level, I don't think it's very good. Durance of Fate silences enemies for 3 seconds after the root expires. So that guy's silenced. Wait, not yet. Now he's silenced. Now he's silenced, and now he's silenced. That's great crowd control. How do you argue with that? That's great. Fantastic crowd control. But you have to wait until level 20 before your ability is worth using. And it still has a lot of the fundamental flaws, like the 1 second delay, the fact that it doesn't deal any damage, and it has a travel time. So, keep in mind, I'm getting more frustrated the more I talk about this. So, Malfurion. What does Malfurion have? Malfurion has a basic ability that's a root that kind of functions in a fundamentally better way. So you could put Malfurion's root on the ground, and then it expands. If you miss your root, someone can still walk into it on accident. If you miss this, you have an 80-second cooldown to do what Malfurion can do on a goddamn normal basic fucking ability. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Just take your sippy water. So, in conclusion, probably don't pick Durance of Fate. Why don't you cast it when you first teleport to a target? Does it work? Yeah, we did this earlier. So, like, if you're aiming over here... Oh, sorry. If you're aiming over here... Look out! It still casts from your body. So, it doesn't even stay on the ground. Like your Q ability does. You can't be like, I'm gonna get you! Although you can kind of do a cool play like that, I guess, if you really wanted to. I'm gonna get you! You look out! It's not good. It's really not good. Now, again, if you land it, the 3-second silence on top of a 2-second root is really, really good. But it still expands like Malfurion's roots do. So you can see I rooted Eric, and Belog was able to just move out at normal movement speed before the root even affected him. So if you're paying attention, you could probably avoid the CC regardless. Now, of course, the Vikings just kind of clump up and walk back into it. But, there you go. So there are my thoughts. I don't want to just shit on the ability over and over, because I know that the developers worked really hard on it. It's just that they have one that's extremely good. And this one just doesn't compare. I don't think it compares at all. So, builds for trying out if you play Mephisto. This one, I think, is going to be the standard. I think this one's going to be really, 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 really good. So, you have Unyielding Power. This gives you cooldown reduction on your Q, so you can cast more Qs. And it deals more damage. Then that goes into a heal, so you can keep yourself alive. Again, this is what I was relying on the show floor, because I didn't know if I was ever going to get heals at all. So maybe this is better for quick match, and then the shield one will be better for organized play. We'll see. Ghastly Armor at level 7, I don't see any reason to take the other ones at all. Consume Soul, because it's better in every way. Adorned Skull, hitting an enemy hero grants 20% spell power for 6 seconds. Remember, we have 5 seconds cooldown on our Q. So if we hit this, target and then miss this one. Yeah, that didn't work actually. Okay, I take that back. Just keep your eye on this. But the idea is you can have a shit ton of improved spell power, which also improves the damage of your W. Technically improves the damage of your shade, because that's a thing, and gives you plenty of time to cast Consume Soul for 20% more damage because of the spell power buff. Then at level 20, we did pick up Consumed Hatred, which is just an upgrade to our already really, really good ability, and probably the best non-situational choice at level 20, regardless of what you're trying to go for. But we can get into some kind of cool stuff here and there as well. You can increase your spell power if you didn't want to... If you didn't want to get the cooldown reduction at level 1, you could try increasing your spell power at level 1, because we've been talking about how his playstyle is really aggressive. You jump in, you deal your damage, you fire off your Qs. Maybe you don't think you need the spell power for that. The cooldown reduction for that. Well, then try out the spell power. You can then teleport in, get 20% spell power, get 20% spell power when you land your Q. Remember, this all stacks with your W.
Love your theory crafting. Pally less than 3.
Thank you. And it stacks with your Consume Soul. So, oh, motherfucker.
Choose a talent.
So, when you do decide to jump in and be all scary, which you're going to be doing quite often, you can then be even more scary with more damage. Pretty good. Pretty good damage. Then, if you don't want to go for a Q build at all,
Choose a talent.
his W build
Choose a talent.
seems pretty strong. In fact, I would say you could also substitute in Malicious Intent here instead of the Furious Spark, because the 20% more spell damage when you teleport in is kind of universally applicable to all of his builds, I think. It just seems really good. I may also argue that the spell power here at level 13 is a little bit better than the Splash, but we don't know for sure. I'm going to go with the spell power. So let's assume that we teleport in, we get perfect lightning novas, increase our spell power. Oh, look at that damage, and then we ult because we still have the spell power buff, right? That is potentially a shit ton of damage versus this enemy team, and you're also generating substantial shields for yourself in the process. Just got to get used to how to actually position this thing. Eric's so fast. So think about that. I think that's a good option too. And then Chu's favorite build, and he played it quite a lot, was the cooldown reduction at 1, the cooldown reduction at 4, the armor here, consume souls, and then the heroic cooldown at 13. I don't really know what he picked at 16. Maybe that was situational. I do think lightning reaction is really, really easy. And then the upgraded consume soul later on. And what all this means is that you're able to lower the cooldown of your heroic ability just by playing normally and by landing some auto attacks in here. So that can start to add up really, really quickly and allow you to, every single team fight, be able to actually cast your heroic ability, which will be really impactful. Especially if you just kind of pick up regen globes for a little bit. Let's look at our cooldown reduction with a regen globe. So for every second, we lose a second off of our cooldown. So definitely something to consider there. I think your sustain damage is probably lower with this. But your team fight damage, your damage where it really fucking matters, might be higher just because you always have your ult. Okay. So that concludes our long, boring, drawn-out look at Mephisto. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I know it was kind of weird because we already played him a lot and he's been featured on the channel prominently, but a lot of people were still asking. And I think I made some pretty good points in here, so hopefully it was a good watch. Thank you all for watching. See you guys next time. Hopefully I won't be as sick then.